So picture this, a great leader is on his deathbed, and the future of an entire nation is just hanging in the balance. But instead of naming one person to take his place, his final act is to create a system, an electoral council, designed to keep everyone united and to secure a just future. So how did this council even work, and what can it teach us about leadership today? Let's dive in and explore the creation of the Shoora Council.
I mean, the scene is just incredibly dramatic. The caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, has been mortally wounded. But even in these final, painful moments, his own agony, that came second. His one last mission was to protect the community, the ummah, from the kind of division and chaos that a power vacuum could unleash. He knew, deep down, that this next decision was the most important one they would ever face.
Okay, so to really appreciate the sheer genius of what Umar did next, we first have to understand the foundation he was building on. This wasn't some idea that came out of nowhere. It was really the culmination of a deep political and spiritual education, all rooted in this key principle of consultation.
When you look at this timeline, a clear pattern starts to emerge. And honestly, for its time, this was revolutionary. Think about it. The neighboring Persian and Roman empires, they were all about dynasty and inheritance. It was all about who your father was. But here, not at all. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught his followers a different way, to rely on consultation. And that's how Abu Bakr was chosen, by consensus. And Abu Bakr, in turn, he consulted with senior companions before appointing Umar. So you see the tradition? It's all about agreement and counsel, not just top-down commands. And at the very heart of that tradition is this one core principle, Shoora, which means consultation. And look, this wasn't just a nice idea. It's a foundational concept in Islamic governance, coming directly from the primary sources of guidance. It's this powerful idea that leadership is a trust, and any big decision that's going to affect the people has to be made with the people, through their trusted representatives. This right here, this is the guiding light for everything else we're about to talk about.
So, Umar has this powerful principle of Shoora in his toolbox, and he's facing his final, greatest crisis. But here's the thing. Instead of just copying the models that came before, he innovates. Let's see how he applied this ancient wisdom in a completely new way.
And this right here, this is the masterstroke. He doesn't pick the next leader. He creates a process to pick the next leader. He establishes this formal body, an electoral council, whose entire job is to consult and then select. It was, as the source tells us, a totally new and unprecedented method. And it was designed specifically to prevent a power struggle before it could even begin.
So who would be on this incredibly important council? Well, Umar delegated this huge responsibility to a very small, very select group. By keeping it to just 6 individuals, he was aiming for efficiency and making it easier to build consensus among the most trusted figures in the entire community.
And here they are. And believe me, these weren't just any men. They were 6 of the most respected senior companions of the Prophet. Every single one of them was seen by the community as someone who is fit to lead. Now, this was a crucial move. By pre-selecting this pool of universally accepted candidates, Umar immediately narrowed the field and cut off any wider political drama. The final choice, he guaranteed, would come from the best of the best.
But Umar's genius wasn't just in picking the men. It was in the incredibly meticulous, almost surgical set of rules he created to guide them. He was basically engineering a process that was designed from the ground up for unity, and most importantly, for a guaranteed outcome.
Let's break this down, because the structure is just brilliant. First, they had to meet and consult in private. Second, to prevent even a hint of favoritism, his own son could be there to advise, but he got 0 votes. Third, a hard deadline, 3 days. That's it. No endless debates. He even built in a tie-breaking mechanism. And finally, he arranged for security to make sure the whole process was protected from any outside interference. I mean, he truly thought of everything.
This quote right here just captures the urgency perfectly. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. The stability of the entire community was paramount, and a leadership vacuum was the one thing Umar was absolutely determined to prevent. The stakes could not have been higher.
Okay, so the electoral process is locked in. You'd think his work is done, right? Nope, not even close. Omar didn't just create a system for choosing a leader. He also set the moral and ethical standard for the leader who would come out of that system. This was his final act of teaching.
And at the very core of his advice was this single principle: absolute justice. He made it crystal clear that a leader must not, under any circumstances, favor the powerful or the wealthy over the poor and the weak. True leadership, he taught, was about impartiality.
And this was essential not just for the state, but for the leader's own soul.
His advice was also incredibly practical. He warned the future leader to stay accessible, do not close your door, so that the powerful couldn't oppress the weak. He also laid out a core principle of economic justice. You have to make sure wealth circulates throughout the whole society, not just hoarding it among the rich. This was basically a blueprint for a just and equitable society.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just Umar's personal political advice. It was all rooted in a divine command. This verse from the Qur'an gives the ultimate instruction to remain firm and straight on the path of God. So in essence, all of Umar's practical advice was simply an application of this core spiritual teaching. He was grounding his political will in timeless guidance. And so this is the profound teaching he passed on. With his final breaths, he reinforced the lesson that a stable society isn't built on raw power, but on principle. The very foundation of rule is justice, and the non-negotiable starting point is that all people must be treated as equals before the law.
And this really brings us to a final question for us today. In a world that is so often grappling with division and crises of leadership, what can we actually learn from this 7th century model? How can these ancient principles of deep consultation, of absolute justice, and of leadership as a sacred trust, how can they help us navigate the challenges we all face right now?